Maybe. 1 second.
Yeah.
So, all right, maybe not. We're getting there.
Nothing coming up yet.
1 second. Hold on.
Single screen. Yeah, let's turn off mirroring.
It's going to be horrible, horrible resolution. And I don't know why it altered that.
You got it on best. Yeah. Does not want why this does not want to go. So okay, hold on, 1, 2. Go. 5. Well, this is just the presentation is not wanting to come up. 5. It's not like this. Well, shall we go try it down one more time?
It's up to you at this point.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and start talking here in just a second.
All right.
Well, let me get back to the... Let me get back to the box and I'll download it again. And it'll come up. All right. Well.
Looks like it finally started.
Well, we'll go with this. We'll make this work. That'll work. Okay. Not the best solution. Which one? This one? Both mics. Okay. All right. So this one on. All right. Sorry about that. We had technical difficulties. We're going to talk about Raspberry Pis. So today we're the talk how about a piece of pie. So I got my nice Raspberry Pi Raspberry Pi pie. This was what I did for the Gen Cyber Summer Academy here. We had this summer here at Augusta University. We had all these kids. We had 100 and no, we had 80, almost 80 students coming through this summer to learn about cybersecurity, and we used Raspberry Pi to show them. This is one of our one of our dinners that we had, or the introduction, the opening of the camp. So that was our students that came through. What we wanted to do was we got the grant from, as you saw on the first page here, was from Gen Cyber from Augusta University. With Augusta University, Gen Cyber, we got the grant from NSA, the Gen Cyber program, and that is to teach. They gave us a grant to teach students, bring them in for a week and teach them cybersecurity. We have 10 principles that we were trying to instill upon them. These are the 10 principles: data hiding, which is basically encryption and other techniques, abstraction, domain separation, resource encapsulation, conceptually simple, modularity, minimization, least privilege, layering, process isolation. So these are all the concepts that we wanted to kind of instill upon the students and teach them early about when they're building systems to build these principles. And these, by using these principles, you'll build more secure systems just because of using these principles. So the way I approached going about this was, well, I wanted to use Raspberry Pi. So let's talk a little bit about what Raspberry Pis are and why do we hack with them. So I think everybody's probably heard of a Raspberry Pi. I'll give you a little bit more history about it. So obviously it's a tiny little computer. We got something. So this is the size of a typical Raspberry. This is a little Raspberry Pi that we used in the camp. This one is a Raspberry Pi 2. There's Raspberry Pi 3s, which we actually use too. So nice thing about them is they're full-blown computers. It's got quad-core ARM processor on these. They're pretty powerful for what they are. This little thing runs full-blown operating systems, run multiple operating systems. And the nice thing about them is they're easy to use. They're easy to modify and hook up things and hack with because they have I/O pins on them that let you connect up and control things and do cool things with them. So a little bit of history about Raspberry Pis. Now this doesn't work well because by the PowerPoint side they were supposed to all fly in, but since PowerPoint died on me, we'll go with this. Up in the upper right-hand corner, up there, this is a Raspberry Pi, the original Raspberry Pi. So there've been several models since they came out. They've only been out for 4.5 years, and they've gone through several models. So that was the original one with one USB port and a composite video out, and they did have HDMI. They came out with a second version here, which is this is a Model B. Still had one port, but they, as you notice, a little smaller. They dropped the composite port, and then over here the third. This is the current revision of it. This is the Raspberry Pi 3. Actually, that's the Raspberry Pi 2. Sorry, this is Raspberry Pi 2, but the Raspberry Pi 2 and 3 are almost identical. But they now have 4 USB ports and the HDMI, and with the Raspberry Pi 3, we added wireless Wi-Fi and Bluetooth to it. And then this is the little Raspberry Pi Zero, which Bob Joyce talked about this morning as well. So that's kind of a history of where Raspberry Pis are. So there have been 10 million of these units sold as of last week. They sold the 10th million units. So 10 million of those little boards out in the world right now. To celebrate, Raspberry Pi just announced they came out with this Raspberry Pi 10 million anniversary special edition Raspberry Pi kit, which you can buy from them, and it has a keyboard and a case and some other stuff. So that was cool. So they've been out for 4.5 years, sold 10 million units. Very popular because this type of Raspberry Pi, which is the little more powerful one, it's only $35 instead of that little Raspberry Pi Zero, like $5. So this is a little, so this is why the Raspberry Pi is so powerful. So this is actually a Raspberry Pi 3, as you can tell. It says for Raspberry Pi 3. So it has the row of GPIO pins up here that let you connect up and control things. So they'll give you output of 5 volts on the pins, and they have different functions, which I'll show you in just a second. We still have the 4 USB ports. This is a 10100 Ethernet port. This is an audio and composite video output port. It has this port right here is for that one is the camera port. The HDMI output. This is your USB power in. This is for the Raspberry Pi display. Then this is your main chip, your ARM core chip, and then this is a support chip, which is the peripheral chip, the I/O chip. So that's basically what a Raspberry Pi 3 can get you. So that's the basic hardware. Why we like to use them is because of this feature right here. This is the GPIO port. So the GPIO, it's a 24 pin dual header on the board. Has power and ground, which is nice, but then it has all the green ones are the general purpose IOs. You can program these as individual IO ports so that you can control each pin individually, or if you set them up, there's functions you can set them up to run. So these two up here will run an I2C bus, which is inter IC interface. So it's basically for communicating between ICs. A UART, standard UART, which is the old serial communication, right? And then it has a serial peripheral interface down here that you can turn on as well. So you can enable or disable these functions and use these pins however you want. So you can use these pins to control LEDs, control motors, to control lots of things, and that's what's cool about the Raspberry Pi. So it lets us use it as a basis for lots of projects and cool hacks and things like that. So that's why we like Raspberry Pi. Some of the things that you can use it for is you can use them to build a little arcade emulator. These are little arcade emulators I found, but the uses of this thing are limitless. We can use them for desktop computing. With the students, I had them actually use their Raspberry Pi as their desktop, so they logged into that and used it to program and write the code in that. So pretty cool. They make really nice media centers. You can take one of these, put it in a case, since it's got an HDMI port, you can set it on your entertainment center, plug it into your HDMI TV. It can run Netflix. It can run other. It runs a specialized XBMC server called Kodi, which is really cool. So you can even do them for games. The standard, the base operating system has Minecraft up to it, so you can teach kids how to program in Minecraft. So that's really cool. You can set them up as little servers to serve files. The useless are basically endless. Oh, and the cool thing we'll talk about in a minute here, and I'll show you, is robots. We love robots. So what are the basic ingredients to make a Raspberry Pi? If you're going to make a Raspberry Pi, you just can't. Up until like 2 days ago, you couldn't go out and buy that kit I showed you earlier. You had to kind of go out and get your own kits. You can go on Amazon and buy starter kits, but you're paying a lot of extra money for somebody, and you're getting somebody compile some parts together. You may not want all those. So you have to figure out, well, you just need a basic kit to get started. So what do you got to get? So the basic thing you need is obviously a Raspberry Pi motherboard. You get the little motherboard, and that's your starting point. After that, you're going to need it. It would be nice to have a case, but this little plastic case, or if you don't want the case, use some standoffs at least to have it. The computer itself, the Raspberry Pi computer, has 1 gigabyte of onboard memory, but it doesn't have any type of storage. So you need at least some type of you need a micro SD card typically to do storage. So this one has a micro SD card, right? It goes in here, so you get the little micro SD card size of your thumb. This is a 16 gigabyte one, and you install your operating system on that and plug it in, power it on. Depending on the version, Raspberry Pi 2s don't have Wi-Fi and/or Bluetooth, so you would have to get a little Wi-Fi dongle to plug in, and you need a power supply. This uses the standard USB power supply, but I'll get into that a little bit later. And you probably need some type of keyboard, mouse, and initially a monitor. You can connect these things remotely, but anyway, that's nice. At least this first column is what you basically need to get going. That's your basic stuff. The other nice things to have would be be able to hook it up to a network. It's nice to put heat sinks on the chips. They get a little warm. If you're going to do any real mess around with the GPIO ports or programming anything, you're going to need probably going to need some type of multimeter to check voltages out. It's really handy for debugging. And then obviously you'll probably need some small tools like screwdrivers and stuff. Those are always good to have around when you're playing with these. Once you get those basic steps in, you can get started. Grab yourself an operating system. You go out. These are all free operating systems on the internet. The main operating system is Raspbian. That's what most people use. That's a Debian Linux distribution. It has it's a basic desktop operating system. It has everything you need to get going. It's fairly secure for the most part. After you change your passwords and stuff, it's a decent little operating system. It's based on Debian. It's a lot like Ubuntu, so pretty easy to use. Some people use Noobs. It's a little Noobs, as it says, is intended for really first time. It's kind of a little bit more of a package that it kind of helps you get started a little quicker. But it's out there. You can also get flavors of Ubuntu, and you can even run Windows 10 on this thing. Windows 10 IoT Core. Now, this is Windows 10 IoT Core. It's not going to give you Windows 10 capabilities, but what it does allow you to do is it works very well with Windows 10 on your computer. So you can program on your computer, write Visual Basic on your Windows 10 computer, and you click a button and it downloads it straight to the Raspberry Pi, and it runs the program right on the Raspberry Pi, and it's like all integrated. So you really don't know. It really treats your Raspberry Pi like an accessory to Windows 10. So that works out really well. Then of course, the fun one we're going to talk about here in a minute is Kali, and you can also get things like I should put the right thing. OSMC or this OpenELEC. These are the media center boxes that I was telling you about. So you download this, plug it in, and basically it's a media center on operations. You plug it in, it boots up, and it's a media center mode. It's got a nice screen that lets you run media, download videos, run YouTube, do all kinds of stuff. That's really cool. And if you want to go play the games like before our video games, you can get this RetroPie. So, and then you basically, once you download one of these, you install it on a SD card. You need probably need another computer to do that, like Windows 10 machine, or a Windows machine, you would Win32 disk imager. If you have a Mac or a Linux, you can just use a command line DD, disk duplicator. And I run mine on a Mac, so I use this command all the time. IF is the the image of the OS, and then OF is dev, and I use rdisk1 because you write to the raw disk. It's much faster than writing to the regular disk. And then I found, after experimenting, the block size, the normal block size, this is about the fastest I can get it to write with a block size of 4 meg. So my experimentation found that was the best command line to get to write out to the SD cards on the Mac. Now, I played around a lot with the Raspberry Pi, so I suffered a lot learning these things, so you don't have to. Things that you get, these are the gotchas that you got to worry about when you're doing it, when you're working there building a Raspberry Pi system. First thing is your power supply. I discovered this the hard way. Power supply quality matters. You want to make sure you have a good quality power supply. Don't use the power adapter off your iPhone or your Android phone. I mean, they say they support it. The problem is that the Raspberry Pi is really sensitive to the voltage drop, and it draws a lot of current. So when it draws a lot of current, the voltage will drop a lot. And if it drops below the 5 volts, when it starts drawing that 2.5 amps, it causes the Raspberry Pi to not behave properly, and then you can get bad writes to your SD card, and then the whole system kind of dies. So even though it is a micro USB standard, I recommend you use the official Raspberry Pi power supplies. There's by Adafruit, they're about $8. But the reason that you use these is they actually supply a 5.25 volt output, not quite the USB standard, but it overcomes that voltage drop across the wire, and you get 5 volts at the input of the board, and that prevents you from having writing problems to the SD cards and things like that. So the other thing is some of the cheaper, you got to watch out. Some of the cheaper USB cables, the connection doesn't make a real good connection here. I found lots of times if I was using a cheap cable, the connection here would get really loose and would pop out. So you want to make sure you have a good quality cable as well. So those are the big gotchas. The other major gotcha I found was that even though it's standard SD cards, I found the type of SD card mattered. Cheap SD cards didn't work well, and the faster the SD card rating, the better. I mean, the rating on the SD card really does have an impact on how fast the system operates. So I recommend going with a SanDisk or a Samsung Class 10 card that writes at greater than 80 megabytes a second. That gives you about the best performance you can get. I tried a Kensington card that they kept crashing on me. They died. So some of those off-brand ones that I would be leery of them if I'm going to be using them on Raspberry Pi, because this is operates. Even though it isn't a micro SD card, it's not used in your camera where you're just writing a picture to it every once in a while. This is actually acting as your hard disk. So the computer is writing to it constantly, and so the performance and the quality of the card matters. So spend the $2 extra and get the Samsung card or the SanDisk card and save yourself a lot of heartache. So that's the learning. So cool. So I got everything now, and I'm going to put Kali Linux on here. So this is why it's cool, because I use these things. I make these little portable hacking rigs out of these things. So these things are great because look, I got this thing. I drop it in my pocket. I walk into your data center. You don't even know I've got it in. I pull it out and I plug it into your network switch. I'm recording your network, and boom, hey, it's pretty easy. Anybody see Mr. Robot? They put this behind a switch in the data center and used it to break in and control. Actually used it to overwrite the HVAC system, and that caused it anyway. So yeah, they're cool hacking devices. But anyway, so Kali, the latest version I just checked. Kali just rolled out a new release for PCs, or Intel-based PCs for Macs and for Mac level, PC level 2.2, but the Kali for the Raspberry Pi is still at 2.1. But anyway, you can download that. It's a rolling release, which means that it will keep on updating stuff if you want to update it, so it's pretty nice. So the first gotcha, when you download that Raspberry Pi image, it's not the full Kali Linux that you would get when you download it for your PC, the PC ISO. It's a little bit different. It's just a basic operating system. So if you want the tools, the cool hacking tools, you got to download the Kali meta packages. So you want to get, at a minimum, the Kali Linux Top 10. That's going to get you a Metasploit, mmap, Wireshark, Aircrack, those cool tools. The ones that you want to do the cool hacking stuff. Those are the ones you got to get. And to get that, you just do an apt-get install Kali Linux Top 10. That'll get you up and running. Get you some cool hacking tools. If you want to go to get the full, then you got to do an apt-get install Kali Linux full. That'll download all the tools. It takes a long time, but anyway, that'll get you there. So we boot up. So you download the OS, you install it with the DD command or the WinDisk image. You put it in, you power it on, and you're going to do the initial boot. First thing you do, change your password. It comes with the default password. It's got an account already created for root with the default password of tour. If you're going to hook it up to a network, I was next door over here, and a couple of these, they're scanning. The first thing the hackers try is root, and then they try Pi. And that's another one that you might run into. After you change the password, you'll need to resize the hard drive partition, because I got a 16 gigabyte card on here, but I downloaded an image that was about 3.5, 4 gigabytes. So it only puts a 4 gigabyte partition on here. So I have to resize the partition, and I just use the built-in command parted, and I go in and I type it parted, and you select the partition for the hard drive, and then you say set it to max size. Once you do that, then you run the resize 2fs command, and that resizes the file system, and now you got the full 16 gigabyte card available on the SD card. Once you do that, you set up networking, and then you're off and running. Oh, I already said change the password. I said the initial, even on the Raspbian, if you're doing Raspbian, the initial password in Raspbian is always going to be Pi Raspberry, and if you're a Kali, it's going to be root tour. Those are the first things you got to change. So once you get it up and running, you got your network configured. The next thing you want to change is your time zone. So these things are the images aren't like that you get on here aren't like an ISO image that doesn't install. And as you're doing the install, you're creating accounts and you're configuring times and everything. It's already configured. So and most of these, since the Raspberry Pi was built in, is a British product. It comes with British time zones and British keyboard setup. So you go in, you got to set up the time zones and keyboards to the right locale, all that to English, US, or whatever flavor of language you want to use. But I prefer English US because I don't speak too many other languages. So set up network, and then if you want to use those I/O ports, you have to enable those in the thing. In the Raspbian menu, so that's there. And then with Kali, you definitely want to do with Kali. You want to do update your OS. So that's the type. If you do that, you can update that. Updates your distro package, and then you once you do that, you do disk upgrading, and that'll update everything to the latest versions of all the packages that are on the distro. That gets you running. If you're running Kali, you probably want to do some type of vulnerability scanning. Then you can OpenBAS is available. You can get that by doing an apt-get install OpenBAS, and then run the OpenBAS setup. And OpenBAS setup takes a while because it downloads a lot of CVE packages, and they're huge. It takes a few hours to do that, even with the fast cards on the Raspberry Pi. Add your user and start it up here. You can run you can run OpenBAS, and then the real B and C. That's good. That's a good one to have, so you can remote in and remote to other machines. So I built my little portable hacking Raspberry Pi hacking rig. So this is where my ingredients, and I got here. I actually got that top there, but so this is the cool thing. So this is the little Raspberry Pi hacking rig. This is actually a touchscreen, so it's like a little 7-inch tablet. And I got the Raspberry Pis installed in here. It's got the camera installed, and it's pretty cool. So that lets me, I can take this pretty much anywhere, and go do my hack. So I said I got the 7-inch touchscreen, the touchscreen case. So this is a cool little thing to have and to take around. You're gonna need a keyboard and mouse. I like the little Logitech keyboard and mouse here. That one, I get that one. That's a $30 mouse set combo over at Staples now, or $30 or $40. Those are good. But that's great. But if I'm walking around with my Raspberry Pi and this and that, or got it, I don't want to have to pull out the big keyboard and mouse. So I got a little. This keyboard. It's got a trackpad here, so I can one hand. So that's fun, but sometimes that's a little bit too big. So I get the remote. Now you really got a little stuff. So this is your little remote. Got the little thumb keyboard here, a little thumb trackpad. So I can put that in my pocket, and boom, I'm hacking. All right, so that's fun. So the cool stuff to have is the little remote here. Now, what I found out was that the Raspberry Pi 3 has built-in Wi-Fi, but it uses a Broadcom chipset, and Broadcom chipset isn't fully supported by. So it works okay and decently with the with Raspbian, which is the official distribution that Raspberry Pi organization supports. So Raspbian works okay with the built-in Wi-Fi, but Kali is a little bit behind. Its kernel hasn't caught up with the new version of hardware in Raspberry Pi. So if you want to do serious hacking, you've got to get at least the little EDMAX. This is the little EDMAX adapter here. Little tiny nano. That's a 802.11n Wi-Fi adapter, the 150 megabits. I found out that I couldn't run mmap and do basic scanning off of the built-in Wi-Fi on the Raspberry Pi 3 with the built-in Wi-Fi. So I went ahead and when I plugged in this EDMAX one, that at least gets me the capability to do the basic scanning because the kernel supports it. But it still didn't get me full what I needed, because if I wanted to do really get into the Wireshark and do some deep, do some promiscuous mode scanning and native raw scanning of the actual network, I needed to get the this little TP link. It's got the nice antenna on here, so it gives you a better reception. But it's bigger and it's a little more clumsy, but not quite as fancy. But at least this one will get you will let you do raw traffic monitoring of the network, and then you can see everything that's on the network. So with this thing, then you can start doing some air cracking cracking Wi-Fi, WEP, and WPA passwords with this. You won't be able to do that unless you get one of these on the Raspberry Pi. So that gets us to that level. So that's pretty cool. So we built that. Now let's build a robot. Danger, Will Robinson. We're going to build a robot. Well, that's going to be that's a little bit much, but here's a cool shot I found of robots making a Raspberry Pi. I thought that was cool. The robots actually made a Raspberry Pi. Or this is an actual robot making a Raspberry Pi. This is an actual robot that's actually making the Raspberry Pi board. But anyway, back to this is what we're actually going to build. Is this is called a Pi board Diddy board. This is I keep coming back over here so I can talk to the microphone. Hey, this is made by again a company in England. It's by a company called Pi board, and it comes as a kit. It has 6 12-volt motors that run the wheels. You get the chassis, the parts, and everything to put it all together. So you get the kit. The only thing you have to supply is your Raspberry Pi. It also has a mount for a camera, the Raspberry Pi camera. If you want to supply the Raspberry Pi camera there, that's there as well. So that's cool. So that's what you get. That's what you start out with. And then you have to put all that together. So this piece right here is the critical piece to the whole thing. This is the what they call the Pico board reverse. That's the controller that controls the motor. So that's basically your motor controller for the wheels. So the Raspberry Pi basically talks to it, and it tells it to set a voltage to the wheels, and then that thing will apply the voltage to the wheels, and then it'll run around. I got that kit, and it came with 12 volt. It runs on. Uses this little adapter up here and runs on AA batteries. AA batteries is a bit of a pain, so I said, look, I can do better than that. I went out and got an RC car battery, 12 volt RC car pack, 2,000 milliamp hours, 10 cell NiCad battery that supports fast charge. So if I use this is a little fast charge here, I can charge that battery pack in 15 minutes, and that'll run for several hours on the Raspberry Pi. I can run around for about 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours using that battery pack, and they can charge it in 15 minutes and be up and running. So that's cool. So I made it a little bit more. So I had my kids build it this summer in the camp. So here I was kind of helping them out and getting started. There, you can see they're putting them together. They start out and they're adding, putting them all together, and they add the wheels. They were real excited about getting this one going. They finally got it built. Then they got out and they tested them and ran them around. Some of them broke, so we had to have a pits. So that's the pits. As you can see, we have some epoxy there. We actually had that one the wheel fell off, so we had to repair a few. The kids they were pretty good. These are pretty tiny parts, and they had some of them did a real good job putting together. Some of them the quality control wasn't quite as good. And then this is our fueling station back there. That's all of our battery chargers. And there's a little batteries you can see. There's a little charger. So we would go through that, and there's my multimeter, so I could debug them and everything. So that was fun. We took them over to a big room, and they set up their computers. So this was the command center. So they set up here, and they were able to create and control these robots. And then they were able to take it and run them. They ran them through an obstacle. We had an obstacle course set up, and they ran them through. So they would run them around these cones and things like that. So that was cool. So let's see here. Is this gonna work? No, my video, because that's supposed to be a video. Shoot. Oh well. All right. So the video not gonna work anyway. So the video ran here. They ran around. Anyway, so what the students learned was, okay, so the students learned how to use the Raspberry Pis, which is cool. None of them really had any experience with the Raspberry Pi, so they were able to actually, this is the first time they're putting together computers and putting together parts and things like that. So they actually saw, they're used to seeing cell phones that are, they can't even see a chip in this, so they didn't really know what's going on. So they actually get to see chips and see pins and show them that they're actually, what a computer really is. And then they're able to see that, hey, I can log into these things, and like I said, when you first power them up, these things are totally insecure. Anybody can remotely log into it, and some of the kids took advantage of that. They said, "Well, I'm going to log into that one over there and bug it." And so so some kids were trying to log in and do things, and the other kids would be trying to log in, and it kind of got to be a little mess. We had to put a ban on hacking in the class, but it was fun. But the point is that they get to see that, hey, I have a computer, I can control it. When I do certain things, it causes the motors. It actually causes real world effects. So we show them that by hacking and doing things, you can create things that can have effect in the real world. So they actually see consequences to things that they were doing. That was part of the cool thing. Obviously we definitely learned some basic security principles like least privilege. Like you don't want to let the whole world have access to your robot because anybody can log it in and remotely take it over. That was the basic. That gave us the basic portion of the class. So they had fun with that. Lots of cool stuff. But where I'm going to go next with this is I want to add more sensors onto this. Like right now, it's just it's pretty much a remote control car at this point, because the way what they do is they run a web server on here that creates a web page, and then you log into the web page, and the web page basically has directional controls, like go forward, go back, turn left, turn right. You can access the camera, but it's pretty much just remote control. You can write programs on it that says, go 5 feet, turn left, go 3 feet, turn right. You can do some basic stuff like that. But in order for it to really become cool, and is that we want to put some sensors on it so it can become more autonomous. So we can say, follow a line, or run until you find a wall, and then once you find a wall, turn around, don't run into walls and things like that. So that's cool. Some of the other things I'm going to be doing is I'm going to set up Raspberry Pi clusters. I'm going to get about 20 to 30 of these and hook them up as a cluster. And a couple of concepts I got going. There's one. I'm going to create a capture the flag kind of field for them, where they're going to be able to remotely log in and tell this cluster of Raspberry Pis and find flags. So they'll be able to go and like turn on lights and turn on buzzers and do cool stuff like that. Might even at one point I'm going to try to get. I got a bunch of these robots. I got enough that I think I can get them to play chess. So that's another cool thing I want to get them to do. So the robots will autonomously play chess against one. That would be cool. And I don't have Security Onion running on here. So if anybody wants to compile Security Onion for Raspberry Pi, let me know. But I'm going to be attempting that. So I talked to Doug. He won't compile it for Raspberry Pi for me yet. I don't know why. But anyway, that's one of the things. That's one of the things I'm going to try to do too, because I think these would make cool sensors. Because, like I said, they're so small you can put them anywhere on the network. So that's basically where I am with that. So with that, that's kind of where I am. So we'll open it up for questions and answers and. Yeah, sure. Yeah, they do actually. They actually work pretty well. that's what for my little hacking rig or this little guy here. Yeah, I've actually had powered this with a battery pack. So yeah, that works really well. So now you have a self-contained, almost like a laptop. A laptop's actually a little bit more convenient to take for hacking, but this is cool because it's kind of different and gives you. It's a little small and you could drop it behind or something like that. That's one of the cool things about that hacking. All right, so in order for them to remotely control them, what they did was they installed the Raspbian operating system on the Raspberry Pi. They ran a web server on the Raspberry Pi. Then they remotely connected to the web server. Then they connected to the web server through a web page. The web page had the controls on it, so then they were able to remote control that either through a computer or you could also connect to it through your phone. I was going to try to set up a demo, but I ran out of time, and I didn't think I'd have enough time to get it going here. But so it's more like it's kind of like a remote control. It's kind of like you ever see the Parrot droids, same thing where you control with your iPhone. It works a lot like that. Yeah. All right. Well, I got a couple of questions here. So, we'll do some administrative. Since this is a Raspberry Pi session, I got the hacker playbook. Does anybody know who the creator of Raspberry Pi was? Close. Nobody. What? Yeah, that's it. So the next is the clubhouse thing. So does anybody recall the name of the robot? Diddy board. Yeah, I think I heard it over here first. Yeah, the company platform for the robot is